And in those moments, and I don't know if other women can relate to this, but in those moments, like when someone says you're just being emotional, it's your hormones, you want to fight back and say, stop using that as an excuse, as a defense mechanism, right? Stop deflecting.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Relationship Theory. I'm your co-host, Tom Bilyeu, and I am here with my beautiful wife, who I had a very lovely weekend and especially evening with last night. Lisa Bilyeu, what is up?
Hello, baby.
How we doing?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you.
All right, so wanted to talk to you today, actually. So we had a question which actually spun the idea. Let me find it. Okay.
This is the actual question, or this is the topic?
So it's the topic, really. So basically, it was based on communication techniques.
Okay.
And what communication techniques do we use that we find the most effective? And we actually have a great example that happened recently where I think that it actually took our relationship to the next level because we really kind of tried something new and ended up, I think, coming out pretty good.
Nice.
So do you want to explain it?
Well, so I know what you're talking about, but the way that you phrased it, I actually want to make sure that you're talking about when we took you off the pill.
Correct.
Yeah. So that was it's interesting how like code words and things like that like really matter to make sure that I understand what you're talking about. So in trying to solve Lisa's microbiome issues, which, oh man, it is a very complicated process. Researching and come across somebody saying, oh, and by the way, no, in fact, back up. So it was going through the Viome test that we had done with you, and the woman that we were talking through the results with said, had asked a question about your estrogen levels. And I said,
she said, do you eat a lot of soy?
That's what it was.
And I was like, do I eat a lot of soy?
Which, no, the answer is very much not. And the reason that she was asking about that is because of your estrogen levels and that you had markers for somebody that has that you're processing a lot of estrogen, and which normally would come from soy, which is why she asked that. So then I thought, okay, wait a second, could it be that you're on the pill, which obviously is estrogen in and of itself?
And I've been on the pill since we met.
Yeah, so for a very long time. And she said, oh yeah, like if you're on the pill, that can also be very disruptive. So we said, okay, let's take you off the pill. I'd actually had an alarm going off for like a year saying like we should really find that path to getting you off the pill, just because staying on it for long-term, anything exogenous makes me tense. So we decided, okay, we'll just take you off the pill. And I said, now you're going to, like, whenever you're messing with your hormones, like it's going to get weird for a minute. And so you're going to get very emotional. I'll just like put it out there nice and simply. You're going to get very emotional. You're going to react to things in a very exaggerated fashion. That is the way that the brain responds to that. I mean, you're literally, it's an endocrine disruption. So your body has gotten used to having this influx of exogenous hormones. It's going to stop. And so that's going to create some weirdness. And so just be prepared for that. Like if you're having an exaggerated response, if you feel overly emotional, like whatever, that you can't necessarily trust that, and you can't just react based on that, because it's going to feel like whatever's happening is going to feel very different to you than it will to me on the outside. So
yeah, and when you said that, because I don't consider myself very emotional, when you said that, I thought, oh yeah, oh no, I can handle it. Like it's not going to be a big deal. And then I started getting emotional. And Here's the important thing is that so as I started to feel emotional, and it wasn't even like I was working one day and I burst into tears, right? It's never that obvious. It's like certain things that you were saying to me started to offend me, and certain phrases you were doing, and like you'd walk past me and like, oh, I'd go to give you a kiss and you'd be working so you wouldn't respond back. And I started like taking that like to heart, and I was like, I can't believe you didn't kiss me goodbye. Or kiss me goodbye because you were leaving or something. You didn't say goodbye.
Was that real?
Was what real?
The no kiss goodbye.
Yeah, you were like, you were in a rush and you just walked out the door, and I was like, did he leave? But you've done that a million times though, babe. So it's not like it's something that should have bothered me. Sure. But for whatever reason, it's not like I told myself, oh, you've done this a million times before. It was just in that moment, I just had that emotion where I was like, wow, he didn't even say goodbye. So all these little things throughout like the last couple of weeks have like really been like building up, but I don't actually realize it's my it's a a reaction to a change in my hormones, because it's not, like I said, it's not like all of a sudden I'm just crying. It's the little subtle things that I started getting offended by and feeling neglected by you. And I didn't really put anything together in my head. So I just got really upset with you. And then one day I just said to you, like, I'm really upset. And you were like, what the hell? Why are you upset? And so we sat down and I laid everything out. And I felt so, like, rightly so, like, yes, this is what you did. And you've done wrong. I mean, I didn't say it like that, but it definitely was.
You felt justified.
Yeah, I felt very justified in feeling like you weren't paying attention and all your focus now is just 100% into work instead of it being a portion of it. And I felt completely justified. And so I'm sitting down with you and I'm going through all these things and I wasn't crying. I wasn't over exaggerating I just felt very, what was the word you just said? Justified. Yeah, I felt very justified. And so I said it very calmly with you. It wasn't like I was like getting like crazy and shouting at you. It was like very calm. So I thought because I was calm, I wasn't emotional. And then you turned around to me and you said, do you remember when I said that you will get emotional? Now, in that moment that you said it to me, I of course wanted to push back and go, but I'm not emotional. Like, this is actually what you did. And then I stopped myself. Or I think I actually may not have stopped myself. I think I may have actually have fought back a bit.
Yeah.
Bless him. Isn't he sweet? He didn't argue with that. But so yes, I was getting a little emotional as I'm describing it and saying, you upset me and I don't feel like I'm, in your thoughts anymore. And as I'm saying it, like I'm not screaming or anything. And when you very calmly said, baby, like, this is what we had prepared for, like we had spoken about that this is going to be a potential. And in those moments, and I don't know if other women can relate to this, but in those moments, like when someone says you're just being emotional, it's your hormones, you want to fight back and say, stop using that as an excuse, as a defense mechanism, right? Stop deflecting, right? Stop trying to blame me that it's my emotions. No, you actually did this. That was what I wanted to say. And then it hit me, the thing that we have kind of agreed upon years ago, where it's like we call it, the anorexic, the phrase you use?
Well, so we've always codenamed it. Act like you have to, we don't have a tight way of saying it. So it's always, I know that I would make an amazingly good anorexic. So I have said to you in the past, like...
And what do you mean by that? Because
that I have the discipline to get myself in trouble.
Right.
So when it comes to dieting, I used to be 60 pounds heavier. And so when I was dieting, it was very easy for me to just not eat. I could skip the meals. I could do all the suffering, all of that.
Right.
And those are incredibly powerful things. And I love that about myself. I'm very proud of that. But I know that there's also a point where you have the mentality of an anorexic, where you can no longer see what the outside world sees. So you become very obsessed with a thing, right? Not eating, getting skinny, like whatever it is that an anorexic is obsessing over. And I remember looking at an anorexic, because we were in the health field, so this was like a very natural thing for me to be looking at. I'm looking at it and going, oh dear God, like they're so proud of their ability to not eat, to push it off, to suffer for a goal, that they become truly delusional. And they can't see from the outside world, but it's so painfully obvious to everyone else. So I said, I recognize that in myself. I understand how my discipline can take me down a path that is either positive or it can spill over into the negative. So I said, as somebody who recognizes that about themselves, I'm going to give you the keys and say, if ever, like, I'm just going to trust you. I know that there is a potential where I cross over into an area where it's no longer actually moving me towards anything that's positive. So you just tell me, you be my sanity check.
Right.
If you ever tell me, hey, you're taking it too far, I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to fight. I'm just going to go, okay, cool. And I'll stop here.
Sanity check. That's a nice phrase.
So having that is very important. Right. So yeah, we need like a nice simple phrase. Sanity That's check. What we use. Sanity check. Yeah, like it doesn't carry the weight, but yes.
Yeah. So in knowing that, you had reminded me like, hey, look, we had discussed that your emotions are going to start to change. You need to like trust me, or do you trust me? Because if you do, then you need to know that I've got your best interest at heart. And if I have your best interest at heart, when I say like, babe, this is emotions, this is your emotions, know that I'm not using that to defend myself. Like the goal is to get to a place where we can fix this. And so because you have shown in the past that you don't defend yourself, right? You always admit when you're wrong. You admit if you've messed up or if you've said certain things or whatever, like you're very open to that, and you've proven that in the past. So if I know that about you, and right now in this discussion, no matter how right I feel about my emotions, I need to turn around and acknowledge that maybe it is my the chemical imbalance in me, and then I have to kind of let go. And when we had that discussion, even though again I felt like, no, this is real to me, it's real, and what my brain is telling me is real versus what actually is happening. And so, yeah, I walked away from that discussion and I just said, okay, well, I know he loves me, right? The questions I always ask myself. I know he loves me. I know he cares for me. I know he always wants what's best for me and what's best for our relationship. And I know he never defends himself when he knows he's wrong. So putting all these together, it was really weird and hard to go, you know what? It must be my emotions, and it must be right now some chemical imbalance that I'm going through. And that kind of just then let me bring my defenses down. And I think that you then saw that I was willing to fix it and willing to open up and be vulnerable. And because that becomes very vulnerable when you do that, where you just say like, oh, I can't trust what my brain is telling me. Like that's a very scary acknowledgement. And I think because I trust you so much and because we've got so many years of experience of trusting each other and know that we're not using it against each other for our own selfish benefits, yeah, it was such a powerful lesson that I learned. And so, yeah, I just really wanted to talk about it.
So from my perspective, it's not a scary thing to admit. It is very weird. And the reason that it's weird is because in that moment, you feel justified. It feels real. And this is something that I talk a lot about is I don't trust my emotions. Like I don't distrust them. I just don't have an inherent trust of them. I have an emotion and I say, okay, is this going to help me? Is this going to serve me? Is this the direction that I want to be going in? And if it's not, then I don't indulge it. I recognize it. I say, okay, cool, I have this emotion. But am I going to continue down this path? Yes or no? That is a choice. So I can't necessarily choose to have the feeling. The emotion is going to be what the emotion is going to be. And going back to when I was really like going hard to get lean, and I just wanted to keep doing it through diet. I find it way easier to not eat a meal than I find to do cardio. And you kept pushing me to do cardio instead of
Cutting your meals.
Cutting my meals. And that was really pissing me off. And it was like, look, what you're asking me to do, I hate, is hard. And the thing that I'm doing is nice and easy. And so for you to go, one, it's very important to recognize you have to let the person like really go deep into crazy land before you say you're being crazy. I just want to be really, really clear about that.
And by the way, do not use the word crazy. I'm saying when you're talking to your partner, don't say you're acting crazy.
When talking to your partner, I was about to like
on
diatribe you
when talking to your partner.
about people being overly sensitive about words. But yes,
because let me tell you, you want someone to put your defenses up. 100%. Yeah, you're not bring them to the place where you feel like they need to be. You're actually pushing them away.
Correct.
So yeah, if you say like, why are you acting crazy? Like that would have escalated the emotion, not de-escalated the emotion.
No question. So you need to let them go into crazy land without calling them crazy, but you need to let them go really like deep into it where you know, okay, this isn't like, I'm not just being overly sensitive to where they're at. Like they're definitely, and the way that I think about it is I have so much history with you. Like I know when you're acting outside of your normal frame of behavior. So I'll be like, wow, this really isn't like her. And then it's like, Jesus, this really isn't her. And then about the third Jesus, I'm like, okay, now's where we very delicately broach it. And having planted that seed earlier to say, look, it's very predictable what you're about to go through. So, and now like we're in that zone. And to talk through, look, when you feel an emotion feels very real, I know you feel justified. And I'm not even saying that I haven't done myriad things wrong that have gotten and by wrong I mean have gotten a reaction from you that I'm not looking for, have made you feel a way that I don't want you to feel, right? I want you to feel protected, secure, loved, all of those things. So clearly, like even just to acknowledge that given your current state, the way that I'm reacting to the situation, the way that I'm handling you, treating you, it's not getting the reaction that I want. So I fully own that. Now, having said that, we are getting into the point where your reaction is atypical. And I think we have to factor in the fact that you have gone off the pill and that's framing things for you. And these are like, that's not a quote, but that's essentially exactly what I said. I wasn't like, bitch, you're acting crazy. To your point, like that would have just been ridiculous and would not have gotten either of us where we wanted to go. So that's really important, but you have to you can't just be like, the second you're like, I detect something is off, that you say, oh, you're acting off. This is all because of that. It's like you need to leave a pretty significant buffer before you jump in with that.
Yeah. And that's interesting because that's something you did again, that's actually very powerful. It's like, yes, it's my emotions. Yes, it's my hormones, right? That are, allowing me to feel like this and steering me in that direction. But it wasn't just like, okay, it's your emotion, so you deal with it. You're like, look, this is real. Like you said, it is an actual thing that you're encountering. So even if it's an imbalance, we need to still address that it's happening. So what can I do? And this is what you said to me. So what can I do to help with as you go through this transition period? It wasn't, it's an imbalance, so you need to get your shit together, right? It was, this is the reason, but let's fix it together. And knowing that we were in it together, feeling supported, that you weren't just then judging me for being like, I can't believe that she got upset over that, right? It was like, okay, you got upset over that. Let's talk about it. It is because of your emotions, but what can I do differently to help you get through it? And that was, again, like the right way to respond, because I didn't feel like I was alone. I didn't feel like, because I am then trying to work on centering myself, bringing my emotions, telling myself like, look, this isn't normally you. You know yourself better than that. You know your husband better than that. But still, when you're doing it alone, it's not as easy.
But now let's have the real conversation.
Yeah.
When you're acting crazy, you do need to acknowledge, I'm acting crazy and I do need to get my shit together. Like that,
sure.
like
Yes.
people, so I love that you focus on what the other person should do and how to facilitate that and all of it. But one of the most important things about people to understand in a relationship is, at the end of the day, you've got to take ownership. At the end of the day, you've got to be doing the work. At the end of the day,
yes.
The person that really has to get it together is the person that's going through that hard thing. And when you don't do that, like for instance, when I used to get, so I've said this 1,000 times, I don't get angry easily, but when I get angry, then I stay angry. And that was a hard thing at the beginning of our relationship. And I thought, this isn't helping. This doesn't serve me. And so I need to be able to get out of this situation. I didn't put that on you. I said, I need to do something to make sure that not only is it hard to make me mad, but that once I get mad, it's measured in seconds, not even minutes, certainly not hours. Mm-hmm. And so I put in that effort. You did the work this time of saying, hey, I get it. I can't just intrinsically or inherently trust my emotions. I need to process through this. I need to build a path to getting where we want to go. That's really, really important.
Right, yeah.
All right, so we've probably gone pretty deep on this.
But then taking that into then this question about communication and tactics, I really do believe one of the most powerful things couples can do is learn from the past, right? It's like riding a bike. Okay, you get on the bike, you fall off, you go, oh shit, what did I do wrong? So then you adjust your foot position, you adjust your balance, like you keep adjusting until you can ride the bike. And I kind of think of that as like in our relationship, where it's like we've been together for 17 years, we're married for 15. All the things that we know about each other, all the things that we learn needs to be taken into account when moving forward. So if you know, for instance, that someone gets anxious when the family comes over, I don't know, just pulled that out, but let's say someone gets anxious whenever their in-laws come over. As the other half, recognize that in the past, they felt anxious about their partners, their in-laws coming over. Sit with them and go, what can we do differently? How can I assist in you not being anxious? Or saying like, instead of pretending it's not going to happen this time, like, oh, this time I really hope that my wife or my husband doesn't get anxious because my in-laws or because the in-laws are coming. Sit down and go, this is a pattern this is something that happened in the past. So instead of just waiting till we get there again and then dealing with it, like what are the things that we can do to know not to get there in like next time? And then if you keep doing that, right, because I don't think you're ever going to get it like right off the bat. I think that it has to be learning and adjusting and training in essence, like at the gym. So keep doing it. Keep talking with your partner about how to change things, what the other person can do to support you when you're going through this. If it's going to be anxiousness or stress or whatever, talk about it. Figure out what each other can do to help. Then when it happens, I'm sure at some point something's going to go wrong, or not I'm sure, but nothing's ever going to be perfect. So once that occasion happens, then sit down again after and say, okay, we thought we had it down pat. We thought we had a system, or I thought you would explain to me how to support you, but I don't think I did a good enough job. What can we do next time? And then keep improving instead of repeating the same problem over and over. Like if it's predictable, then adjust accordingly. And so like with the pill, where you felt like it was very predictable, we discussed the fact that it was predictable. And going into it actually helped me get back out of it because you had said it was predictable. Otherwise, I don't think I would have gotten there as quickly, because I think I would have pushed back a bit on the emotion thing. But because you had literally said it before I even got off the pill, I remembered it and I went back to, oh yeah, he actually said that we call it our sober moments, right? Where it's like before anything's actually happened and you're not reacting on emotion. That, do it in your sober moments, because it really, really, really helped me recognize it when I was feeling it.